G'day guys, it's Yosti here from Myrtleford Boot Camp. Welcome to the Myrtleford and Bright Boot Camp online training series. Of course, with all the craziness that's going on in the world around us at the moment, we have in fact had to close our gyms. So big apologies for that. However, your health and safety is our primary concern. Of course, that being said, this is why we've brought you this online training series, because we want to keep your programs rolling. We want to keep you staying healthy and physically active during this time of uncertainty. So stay tuned. This is a work in progress. We want to deliver the best product for you guys so you can get the most out of it. So feel free to leave us some comments, give us some feedback so we can continue to evolve this to best suit you guys. So one of the key things that we want to stick to with these training sessions is to keep your training continuity intact. So what you're going to find is you're going to find your strength sessions, you're going to find your boot camp sessions, as well as a few other different styles of training sessions thrown into the mix. So not only do you have a choice, but also you can keep what you're doing now basically intact so you can keep those healthy routines going. So today being a Wednesday, we're going to be focusing on strength and focusing on our deadlift and push patterns. Also, the other thing that we want to focus on is just keeping things nice and simple, because at the end of the day, if things becomes too complicated, especially when you're training at home, you tend to fall away or fall out of those routines. So we don't want that to happen at all. We're going to keep things simple so you can get the best bang for your buck out of this. So today, guys, all you're going to need is a couple of your reusable shopping bags. A couple of these little green bags work. Now, ideally, you kind of want four. You can use plastic bags. Plastic bags work just as good. Just be mindful, if you use one by itself, you're going to be kind of limited to how much weight you can kind of load into it. Now, of course, the reason why we're using a couple of bags is just to highlight that we can use things around the home to really help us out with our training programs. You know, things that you may not think about, we're going to help incorporate those things into the mix just to give you a little bit of variety with your training. Needless to say, if you grab 4 bags, that means you can basically double bag. So for example, we can grab these 2 green bags, basically put one inside the other. So you chuck it inside, and then from there you can load it up with some books, load it up with some water bottles, or just basically just add a bit of weight to it. So because I'm in the gym, I'm just going to keep things nice and easy. I'm going to use one of our dead balls and just chuck that into the bag, and then basically grab both of the handles, and then you just want to tie them together. That way it just holds everything together, just makes it nice and easy. So then when we get to our exercises, it's just going to make things super simple for us to get into our program. Let's get into it, guys. So to kick things off, we're going to get some dynamic mobility happening for 5 minutes, and then we're going to get into an activation set before our main set, much like what we do in any regular class. So to kick things off, let's get some hip circles happening, pushing right out and around. You're going to go 5 one way, then 5 the other. Of course, I may not end up doing all of the particular, trying to count and demonstrate and talk at the same time. That's way too many things for me to be able to do. But basically I'll call the number, and that's how many reps that you guys are going to be doing. So 5 one way, 5 the other with our hip circles, then big pivot reaches, extending right out. Remember to try to keep that chest up as much as possible, extending the hand and the shoulder away from each other as we go. Once we get our 10 or 5 per side done of our reaches, getting into some nice arm circles next. Nice up and over the top for a set of 10 going forwards. Really taking those shoulders and arms as far over as we can, then going back the other way for 10. So once again, if you're used to getting into these mobility routines at the start of our sessions, these are going to be very, very familiar for you. Once we get our 10 and 10 done, shoot those arms out the side, and we're going to opposite twist, taking those hands in opposite directions and twisting and unwinding and winding that shoulder as much as possible. 5 per side, 10 total. Once we finish there, we're going to go nice and wide with our feet, working some windmills, so arms out the side, bending and extending through the hips. So just be mindful with this one when we're bending and extending. We don't want to be just rounding and touching our feet this way. Stick the bum out, winding and reaching down to opposite foot. Set of 10, 5 per side, making sure we keep that strong line intact. Next up, guys, marching on the spot, drawing the knee up into the chest, Marching on the spot for a set of 10. Just be mindful. Don't be leaning back as you lift, and don't be dropping the chest as we march. Working for a set of 10. Once we finish there, we're going to take it down to the ground, setting ourselves up in the top of the push-up position. Step it through, add the rock back. Nice big step. Then trying to straighten that front leg as we go. If you find that a little bit of a struggle, drop the back knee on the ground, extend that leg and just sink back. Change it up, keeping that back knee on the ground, rocking back, basically trying to stretch out the hamstrings on one side before the other. Once we finish there with 10 steps, 5 per side, set yourself up in that high plank position, pushing back into the heel, alternating, driving one heel down, then the other. Nice and steady as we go. Working for a set of 10. Pause and hold. Pause and hold. As we push back through the heels of the hand. From there, guys, just widening the stance, holding the hips steady as we reach back to point at the sky. Working for a set of 5 per side, 10 total. Try to keep those hips square to the floor so we're not just turning and twisting. Legs nice and straight as we reach back, holding up nice and strong as we go. From there, team, we're going to move down into a nice deep squat. So remember to keep your feet flat on the floor when we're in our deep squat. Place the hands, lift the hips high, drop back down again, lifting up nice and tall. Once again, going for a set of 10, sinking back down and lifting up. Nice steady reps, working for 10 of course. Then standing up nice and tall, we're going to step back, reaching up to the sky, lunging back. Whatever leg we lunge back with, left leg back, left arm up, right, right. Working for a set of 10 steps. Nice and steady. Keeping that chest up as we reach and actively extending that arm out to the sky as we go for a set of 10. Then last of all, just to get that heart rate up a little bit, touching the ground, keeping the chest up as we move from side to side for a set of gorilla taps. Reaching down, shuffle stepping to the side, keeping that chest up as we alternate, switching and moving from side to side. Cool. Oh, I know my heart rate is now up, feeling nice and warm. Now we want to get into our activation series. So what you want for your activation series is grab one of your bags that's preloaded with weight. So the first exercise in this series is going to be some good mornings. We're going to do 5 reps. Then we're going to go into bag rows for 5 per side. And then of course we're going to go into plank leg lifts for our third exercise, 5 per side or 10 total. So basically everything is 5 in this set, and you're going to do 3 rounds of this. So to kick things off, we want to grab our bag, make sure it's done up so you got that little loose knot in the top of it so things don't just fall out. We're going to pick up our bag, hug it on the chest. From there, we want to push back. We want to make sure that our feet are basically around about shoulder or hip width apart. You don't want to be too far apart, and you don't want to be too close together here. So nice and tall, pushing the hips back, chest stays up, bum slides back. This is what we call the good old good morning. Working for a set of 5, really trying to preserve that nice line from head to hip as I work. So if you look from the side, I stick my bum out. I don't want to be dropping my chest, and those knees stay relatively straight as we go for a set of 5. Cool? From there, we're going to set up our bag on the floor. Nice big stance as I lean out on that front leg. You'll notice I've got this big long straight line from my head down to the heel. Grab a scruff of bag in your grip. You want to hold that bag next to your foot, pull it back into the hip, bracing and holding tight. You're going to work for 5 reps on one side. Ooh, I think that's 5. Before you change it out to the other side, kicking out. bringing that bag right in close to the foot, bracing on that front leg, then pulling back into the hip. Just think down and back with the shoulder, trying to touch the bag to the top of that thigh, or basically bring it into the hip pocket. Once again, working for a set of 5. You'll then set yourself up or move the bag out of the way. Work down on the floor, setting up on the forearms. We want a nice strong plank, balancing on the forearms, lifting one leg, then the other. Bracing nice and tight as we go. We don't want those hips up here. We don't want to be sagging our hips down towards the floor. If you really struggle with this, knees go down, but keep straight line. I don't want to see those hips popping up this way. Kick those hips forward, and then you can lift one side then the other. Otherwise, keep those knees off the floor, brace nice and tight as we work for a set of 10. As soon as you get that 10th rep out, we're then going to go back into our good mornings. So setting up, working for a set of 5 good mornings, minimal knee bend, nice strong line from head to hip, and straight into our bag rows, pulling that bag back into the hip for 5 on one side, 5 on the other, and then finishing with that plank leg lift for a set of 10, 5 per side. Remember, 3 rounds before we get into our strength program. Now we're ready for our strength set. So grab both of your bags that are preloaded. Of course, you want them weighing roughly about the same weight. So you can either use a set of luggage scales or some bathroom scales just to weigh them, just to make sure that you've put enough in one and enough in the other, just to make things nice and balanced as you go. So in this set, we've got 3 exercises that we're going to work with. Everything is 8 across the board to keep the numbers nice and simple. So I'm also going to add some scaling. So this is going to be appropriate for our beginners as well as our more seasoned veteran members as well. So first up, our deadlifts. We're going to get a couple of deadlifts going. So this is our beginner variation. So you want 8 of these. Basically what we're doing is a sumo style of deadlift here. So bring the bags in between the feet, not too dissimilar from our kettlebell deadlifts that we do. What we do is we want to make sure that we push our hips back and we maintain a really strong line from our head to hip. Very similar to our good mornings that we did in our activation set. So reaching down, grab a scruff of bag, lock in those shoulders, and then from there, we drive the feet into the floor and stand up nice and tall. Try to keep the bags really close to the body. Bring it back to that start position. Standing up and giving that bum a squeeze, or standing up and pushing your hips in towards the bags. So remember, we want to work for a set of 8. Just be mindful, I'm going to turn sideways here, but as we deadlift, we want to make sure that we've got that real strong line, once again from head to hip, that we're not just reaching over and we're not letting our shoulders fall forwards. So shoulders get pulled into the body, we keep that chest up, standing up tall as we bend and extend for our deadlifts. That's our beginner variation. So for those that want something a little bit more difficult, we're going to do this single-legged or working with an RDL. So once again, we want to make sure that we scruff the bags. We're basically dropping one foot back. So you want those toes basically in line with that front leg back heel there. Lock in the shoulders, same as before, basically transferring about 80% of your body weight to the front leg. Then hips go back, touching those bags on the ground and maintaining that strong line once again. We're going to work for a set of 8 on one side. Just remember that when we work one-legged, the last thing you want to do is reach and round. We want to bend and extend, holding nice and strong through our midline as we go. Once again, 8 on one side, drop that foot. Remember, toes in line with that back heel. Then pushing back, standing up nice and tall. Once again, 8 reps per side. Then what we do is we place our bags over to the side so we get a little bit of room. Setting yourself up on the ground, we're going to work some push-ups next. So 2 variations here. First up, the beginner variation, placing the knees on the ground. When we do knee push-ups, make sure that we switch our hips on and we're pushing those hips forward. We're not just sitting back and we're not flaring those elbows out the side. Hands about a little wider than shoulder width. lock on those hips. Then from there, we lower ourselves down to the ground, bracing tight through those hips for a set of 8. Alternatively, the more advanced version is holding nice and tight, lowering down. I'm going to give you a bridged version between this as well. For those that do struggle a little bit with their push-ups, try lowering down, resetting to knees, then reset to the top. Control it down, chest touches first, reset to knees, then reset. If you're fine with push-ups, I want to make sure that we're touching the chest first and we're keeping those hips and knees elevated from the ground as we go. Remember, we're doing 8 reps of our push-up. Last of all in the set, set yourself up on the ground for a set of hip bridges. So tucking the heels in towards the butt, we lie ourselves back, palms facing up, lift the toes, and from there we're pushing our hips towards the sky, working for a set of 8. Of course, this is our beginner variation. For those that want a little bit more of a challenge, we're bridging up, driving the knee towards the chest, working for 8 per side, 16 total. Cool. Remember, when we bridge up on one leg, there's no difference between 2-leg bridge or our single leg. The only thing is we're just driving the knee towards the chest. Bridging up, getting a nice bum squeeze at the top, keeping that heel driven into the ground as we work for 16 reps. So once you get through those 3 exercises, bring your bags back in again, setting yourself up for our deadlifts or your RDLs. That's that single leg variation. You're going to be doing 8 deadlifts, 8 per side of our RDLs. Then we're moving into our push-up. Remember, you've got your knee variation, you've got your push-up down, then reset to knees, or you've got your regular push-up for 8 reps. Then last of all, we've got our glute bridges, or we're working with our glute marches for a set of 8 per side. Either 8 glute bridges or 8 marching glute bridges for 8 per side, 16 total. You want 4 rounds before we move into our conditioning set. Last up, folks, is a little conditioning set to round out this strength program. So I'm going to give you a couple of different options here, one for your beginners and also one for our seasoned members that are used to doing our strength classes and our boot camp style of classes here. Anyway, guys, what we've got is 4 exercises that I'll run through, but basically the way this is going to work, this is a time set. So what I want you to do is grab yourself a little timer or use a clock. For the beginners, you guys are going to be working for 8 minutes, and for our more advanced members, we're going to be working for 12 minutes. The numbers across the board will stay the same. The first exercise, you'll start at 8 and you'll add 1 repetition each round that you do. Everything else stays at 10 to keep things nice and simple throughout the set. Also, grab one of your bags, which you'll use for the lunge set. For those that find lunges or reverse lunges a little bit easy, we can use that bag to help load that particular exercise. Of course, you don't have to, you can work just with body weight. So for our beginners, body weight is absolutely just fine. Just remember, guys, work to your fitness level with this particular exercise because this can jam that heart rate up quite high. If you need to back things off or you feel like you're gassing out, just back it off a little bit. If you feel like it's a little bit easier, remember, this is an AMRAP or as many rounds as possible. So really crank it up and see how many rounds you can do. And in fact, we want to see in the comments section, how many rounds can you do? We want to know how many minutes, which minutes you're doing, whether you're doing the 8 or the 12, and how many rounds that you can actually get out with this. So we want a little bit of a member competition here to see how you guys go with this. Anyway, first off, like we did in our warm-up, we're going to start out with a set of gorilla taps. So when we're doing gorilla taps, we want to push the hips back, reach down to touch with the ground, then from there we jump up and shuffle step from side to side for a set of 8. It's 1, 2, 3 through to 8. Cool? So remember, we don't stay low with our gorilla taps. We're achieving full hip extension with each one. So up and over the top. Now, if you do struggle with the jumping component, just reach down, side step, reach down. Just take the jump out and just slow it down a little bit. Cool? So we can still achieve the same movement pattern, we just take the intensity out of it. From there, guys, once you've done that first round of 8, we then head to 10 plank taps. Moving into the top of that high plank position, lock out those hips, reach up and touch the shoulder, minimizing how much rotation happens at the hips. So imagine you've got a bowl of water on your backside that you don't want to spill. We're going 5 per side, 10 total. So nice and tight for 10. That number does not change. Then we stand up tall. From there, we're lunging back, alternating the lunge. Aim to keep the shin nice and vertical at the front. If you step too far back, the shin's just going to fall back, or if you don't step enough, it's going to push that front leg forward. So don't let the knee go past the toes with this particular lunge variation. And if you want to load it or make it that little bit harder, just grab one of the bags, hold it on the chest, then from there, lunging back, we're working 5 per side, 10 total. Before we drop that bag, we place it over to the side, and then we move into our ab cycle. So to do an ab cycle, we lie down on the ground. We set ourselves up like we're doing a glute bridge, except we push the small of the back into the ground, roll our chest forward, push the hands forward, and from there, cycling the legs backwards and forwards for a set of 5 per side, 10 total, maintaining that forwards, what we call hollow position, pushing the small of the back into the ground, just for 10, 5 per side before we jump back up. Because that's 1 round down, I now move into 9. Well, I should say, because it's gorilla taps, it's 2 per side. So we add the 1, but it's kind of works out that it's per side. So 8, even though we're going this, it's 4 per side because we're alternating from side to side. So those gorilla taps, in essence, go up by 2 reps. So once again, 8, you'd add it, it'd become 10. Cool, so 1, 2. Once again, that comes back to how you count. So for example, in the first set of gorilla taps, you can go 1, 1, 2, 2 for 4, or count 1, 2, 3, 4 to 8. However, if you want to count it as 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, then of course that second round would be 5 reps or 10 per side. Cool? 8, just add 2. The best way to do it is count 8, add 2 each round that you do. Cool? So once again, guys, this little set, you got your gorilla taps, you got your plank taps, reverse lunges and ab cycles. The gorilla taps goes up by 2, depending on how you count it, of course. Starts at 8, goes up by 2, first round, 8, second 10, 12, 14, 16, and so on. Remember, beginners, we've got 8 minutes, and for everyone else, 12 minutes is on the clock. Let's see how many rounds you guys can do in that particular time, and also we want to know what you end up getting out, how many minutes, and also how many reps. Cool? Awesome, let's get into it. Well done, folks. That's our session for today. So to finish things out, we're just going to have a little bit of a stretch. If you guys have particular areas that are tight that you need to work, or you know you need to work out, now's the time to hit those particular areas. So for those with tight calves, spend a bit of time stretching out those calves. If you've got tight hamstrings, stretch out those hamstrings and so forth. You want to spend about 5 minutes at this point just stretching things out and loosening things up at the end, just to get that heart rate down, and also to disengage that nervous system. So we're not in that heightened state of working out, that we can start the recovery process, start to breathe and relax again, so we can begin that recovery process so we can get the most out of the session that we've just done. So guys, just for example, kick out on the floor, nice wide stance, and from there we're reaching across, grabbing the leg to begin with. If you can reach the toes, pull those toes back. Ideally, you want to spend about 30 seconds per stretch, 30 seconds to the minute. The tighter you are, or I guess the more inflexible that you might be, then spend a little bit more time in that stretch. So the longer time in the stretch, you're going to get even more of a benefit out of it. So leaning in, we can pull those toes back during the whole process, in through the nose, nice and slow, out through the mouth. Once we finish there, we're going to reach over the top to create a nice big lateral bend Our goal is to get that hand down to reach the other hand, but keeping that arm nice and high at the same time. Once again, nice big deep breathing. You want about 30 seconds there before we move over to the other side. Pulling on the leg to try to get the chest down towards the knee. Just holding for a good 30 seconds. Remember, pull the toes back to help stretch out those calves as well. Once we finish there, we reach over the top. Reaching down, trying to get our hand down, but keeping that elbow high so we get a nice big lateral bend. Nice deep breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. Then reaching up nice and tall. Take a big breath in, reach forward, breathe out. Hold and breathe as we hold and sink into that stretch. Once we get out there, you want to hold around about 20 to 30 seconds, then gently push the elbows down towards the floor to help intensify that stretch. Hold that position for another 20 to 30 seconds before sitting up nice and tall and pushing down on the elbow. Keep your chest and chin up in a nice tall seated position, pushing down on the elbow to see how far we can get that hand down the spine. About 30 seconds, moving over to the other side. And once again, pushing down on that elbow once again, staying tall. From there, team, we're going to move into the top of the push-up position. So a nice high plank position is what we also call it. We slide the leg through, over on the side, then breathe out and sink down onto that leg at the front. Try to keep those hips as square to the floor as possible so we're not tilting onto one side or lifting that one side up. Keeping nice and square, nice big breathing. With every breath out, try and sink a little bit more into the floor. Once again, about 30 seconds or so before we pop up, changing it out, sliding that leg through, bringing those arms in. Big breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, sinking into that stretch. Nice. Then last of all, guys, we're going to push back up into that push-up position. Moving into a downward dog, we're pushing back into the palms, lifting the bum up nice and high with straight legs. Trying to get the heels down towards the ground. Then take a breath in, lower to the knees, breathe out as we bring ourselves through and lift up tall at the front. Nice big breathing. In this position, aim to lift yourself up or create space between the ears and the shoulders. Then big breath in, lower down, push back. Breathe out as we drive those hips up. Heels go down. Holding again. Breathe and relax. You want about 20 seconds or so before we take a big breath in, lower to the knees, slide it through and breathe out as you come up. Nice and relaxed. Nice big breathing. Good work, guys. And that is our session for today. Hope you guys had fun with it. Hope you guys got a little bit out of it. Of course, remember, leave us some comments. Let us know what you think. Let us know if there's anything that you guys want more clarification on. If you've got particular questions about any of the exercises, please add that to the comments section and we'll do our best to answer those as quickly as possible. But I hope you guys have a great day. Look out for our next one. This whole video series is going to be continuously evolving, and I thank you for staying with us and staying true to your training program and training routine in this particular stressful and uncertain time that we are in at the moment. But so long as we're all together and we're all focused on moving in a positive direction, then of course only positive things can come of it. Have a good one, guys, and I'll see you next time.